morning. Welcome, episode 74. And today, very special guest, Lisa is with us this morning. Really excited. We had a quick chat before the time and I just thought, wow, this is going to be an amazing episode. And the best thing about it is we're just going to have a good conversation. She's got such good stories to tell and experiences and all of that. And really excited to get into it. And so I hope you're going to enjoy this with us and really engage with us in the comments, ask questions and that. We'll get to the questions at the end. But please, this is your opportunity. Whether you just want to comment and echo something that we are talking about, or whether you have a question for Lisa, you are more than welcome to ask that. So please do that. Let's make this an interactive session and enjoy it together as we always do. So good morning. Let me say good morning. First in is Kobus. Good morning, Kobus. Good climbing. Yes, absolutely. We've got Jaco Roots. Good morning, Terence. Terence says he's got his coffee. Fantastic. Denise, Raymond. We've got Tinus Brits in the house. Good morning, Tinus. Malcolm and Renata. Thank you, Renata. You put me in touch with Lisa, so thank you very much for that. Then, we've got Johan Vosloo. Johan, good morning. Casper, Nadia, nice to see you. Lynn Hunt, good morning, Lynn. Very nice to have you with us. We've got Renee and Carol and Salome over on LinkedIn. So let me show some LinkedIn people here on the screen as well. Good morning, Salome. Mark, very nice to see you. Yeah, wow, I don't recall seeing you maybe once before. I can't remember. So very nice to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Peter Strydom, Neil Phillips. Neil, you sent me a message saying are you looking forward to this one? So trust me, you're going to enjoy it. And Ravi, good morning. Thank you very much. And of course, and there he sneaks in just as I was about to go off the comments. Ian McMaster, good morning, Ian. Thank you very much for joining us. Guys, yeah, so we are on episode 74. Really excited. This is just going from strength to strength. And already last night I was thinking so from next week, we're going twice a week. So from only Tuesdays and Fridays. And I get but I want to continue now daily until I get to 100 episodes. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I need to make a decision around that. But I think you should let me know in the comments. What do you want? Do you want us to go daily until we get to 100? Or do you, are you too busy to watch and then would rather want just 2 episodes a week? Let me know. I'm going to follow your lead on that one. And let's see what happens. So please, in the comments, just let us know. That'll be quite cool. Alrighty. So let me just make sure I don't have anything else. Just one, obviously, I have to sort of tell you about this again. So the estate planning refresher is taking place next week, Tuesday. So the time is getting closer and closer. You can still book. There's still spots left. So please do that. You can just go to www.francodutoit.co.za/online refresher and you can book your spot there. It's only 350 Rand. If you're a Profile Me client, you'll pay 315, and if you're an Ignite member, $300 is all you need to secure your spot there. So come and join us. It's going to be 3 jam-packed hours, and everything that you want to refresh or know about estate planning, we're going to squash into those 3 hours. So, that's some may see it as a crash course and some will see it as a refresher, but you are more than welcome. I would love to have you join us. So please consider doing so. Even if it's just out of the kindness of your heart and you want to support us, do that as well. Not a bad idea. Alrighty. So, I want to get into the conversation with Lisa. We don't have, all day. So on that note, I want to say welcome to Lisa. And Lisa, thank you very much for joining us. And I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Good stuff. So, Lisa, it's quite an interesting story. I'm really excited to get into everything. But before we do, can you give us just a short little introduction about who Lisa is and what do you do for a day job? Before we get into all the exciting mountaineering and all that stuff. Who is Lisa?
Hi, everyone. Good morning. And thanks, for taking the time to come in and listen. Much appreciated. Who's Lisa? So not married, no children, footloose and fancy free. So I think that also allows me to take the time required to go and climb these mountains because they do take a lot of time. And that's also why female climbers are so scarce because Typically, they don't go and do it because they've got families, but they don't want to leave for such long periods of time, and obviously the danger around it. In terms of my day job, I work with Brian Walsh at The Real Entrepreneur. I've been with Brian, going on 7 years now. I do 3 things with him. I am the head accountability coach. So I run the coaching division where we've got coaching clients, and we do business accountability coaching. So I help grow that division as well as an accountability coach myself. And then of late, with the new norm and with COVID and finding our new space, the business model has pivoted, and we used to do a lot of online live events, and now we're doing online events. And so I've stepped in as a speaker manager, because obviously we've got lots and lots and lots of speakers that we put on the virtual stage. So divided that with my colleague called Gerard, and I'm now dealing with the speakers, which is an interesting job in and of itself. And then also our internal team. I run with the culture and the performance management of the organization. So yeah, busy. And COVID time and lockdown time, and my downtime has gone down, and my busy time has escalated. But blessed that I'm busy and earning.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, there's some people that don't know what to do with themselves at the moment. So being utterly busy it's a blessing. And, it's the same on this side where I guess I could have sat back and said, well, what's going to happen? Nothing. Nobody's going to, spend and whatever, but I just saw what difference it made, so if one is busy and you could create a purpose for yourself and just say, this is what I'm going to do during this time. So whether it was, you're going to garden every single day or whatever it is that you wanted to do, at least as long as you had a purpose when you got up, and even more so if it's in your business and you can stay busy. I think that's fantastic. And also being able, I think, to pivot. And I think, it feels like we're inundated with webinars and those kind of things. And now summits are the new thing where, a lot more people are coming up with summits, virtual summits. And some people have sent me some very interesting stuff about how they run, like Gallup, for example. Gallup is doing a very interesting virtual summit next week, this week, I'm not sure. But their whole, how they created an exhibition space and how they created a networking space and obviously the virtual stages. And it's amazing what they are doing virtually, so that they're trying to emulate still that sort of real exhibition conference type of feel. And I don't know if it's working. It'll be interesting to see. I've been part of a few summits, but it's really like the one speaker after the next speaker after the next speaker. And it'll be interesting actually to experience something where they try and emulate that real exhibition, summit, conference kind of vibe and how that works. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, like with anything new, you have to innovate and keep fresh and new. So this is the same.
Yeah. All right, Lisa. So we're not here to talk about virtual events because I can talk about that for a long time. It's something that I love, obviously, while I'm doing the show. But I want to talk to you about how did Lisa end up in mountaineering? What is it? Something that happened gradually? Is it something that has always fascinated you, or is it something that you fell into?
I literally fell into it. In 2010, I was working for an organization called Sirdar with Carl Bates. And the word Sirdar means lead Sherpa on a mountain expedition. And all our marketing and all of that was in line with mountaineering. And then Carl decided that we should, as an organization, actually go on a mountain. And he decided that Kilimanjaro was a good one to do. And so we got a whole lot of our internal team and clients to some talks. Ronnie Moore, who runs the organization called Adventures Global, who I've been climbing with for the last 10 years, came to do a talk. And Carl said to me, I played a lot of competitive sport. So Carl said to me, you'd be perfect to go on the mountain because you're fit and you can do this thing. And I said to him, I'm not interested in mountains. No, thank you, not interested at all. So he said, well, Ronnie was coming to do a talk to some of our clients and some of our internal team. So I said to him, I'm not listening because I know what I'm like. I'll listen to Ronnie. I'll get inspired for 5.5 seconds and then I'll land up on the mountain. So I said to Carl, I'm not coming into the talk with Ronnie. And I came in for 5 minutes to change tea and coffee cups and landed up sitting down and listening to Ronnie and getting all inspired and said, okay, I'm in. So we went on Kilimanjaro in 2010 and I absolutely hated it. I disliked every moment of it. I resisted being there. I fought the process. I wasn't prepared for altitude, cold, sleeping in a tent, eating different food. And when I got off the mountain, I said to my family and anyone that was listening, there's no way she'll find me another mountain ever, 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 ever again. And that was the end of that. And then about 6 months later, because of the type of person that I am, I woke up and I just thought, no, there must be something more to this. And let me see if my experience would be different if I did it on my own terms and was more prepared. I had a bit of an arrogant attitude because I played such high-level sport that I was fit and ready for Kilimanjaro, and I really wasn't. And I called Ronnie back, and he was very surprised to hear from me. He went, yes. And I just said to him, what else is coming up? And he said, they've got a trek into Everest Base Camp in Nepal. And I said, I'm in. And that was 6 months later. And yeah, that's it. The Himalayas took my soul and took my heart, and it's my spiritual home. And I've been climbing every year since with a different attitude.
Yeah. Now, what difference does that make? Because I would think, like, when you start off with like your first mountain, it'll be something like in your backyard. It's not, you're not going to go straight to a Kilimanjaro or something. I mean, you would start off with something like somewhere in Rustenburg or even the Drakensberg, maybe, I don't know, or a copy, just a normal copy. Let's just see how this goes. And then you start off with something like Kilimanjaro. So, wow, I didn't know that. So that's really amazing. And I think what struck me now from what you've said is that you disliked it completely. And, but then you also thought about it and said, well, was it really that bad, or is it because I wasn't prepared for it? And you talk about the kind of person that you are. Are you very competitive? I mean, obviously, if you say you did sports at a high level and that, I mean, are you very competitive? Do you think it's that thing that has made you go back?
My competitive nature has diminished as I've gotten older. Maybe I'm getting wiser and more chilled. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think the nature in me of wanting to do something on my own terms and being prepared, because I was not prepared for Kilimanjaro at all. Didn't have the right gear, hadn't trained properly, and didn't have the right mindset, which is the most important thing. So I just thought, so many people talk about mountains and the lessons and the learnings that they have. And I thought there must be something more to this. What am I missing? Let me give it another shot.
Yeah, amazing. So, I mean, did you feel after that it was Ronnie's fault that you didn't enjoy it, that it was that they didn't prepare you well enough and that they didn't guide you well enough?
Absolutely.
Did you have that?
No.
So you took it upon your own, it's your responsibility.
I'm big on your life is your 100% your own responsibility. I don't point fingers. All the good and all the bad that happens in one's life and mine is because of my doing and my decision making and my choices. So yeah, no, it was absolutely my responsibility and my fault that I wasn't ready.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like genuinely, is that the way you thought back then already in 2010? I mean, because that is very much like something that they would teach you through coaching and that, to say everything that happens, it's your responsibility. You have the accountability. You have that. So is that something that you've always had, or is it something that you learned over time?
Since I can remember, that's always something that I've had.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and why I'm asking, because I think a lot of people are gonna turn back and say, oh, the organizer didn't do this properly, So that's why it's an important message to have, is to say, you know what, I wasn't prepared. I didn't take this seriously enough. My mindset wasn't right before I got into this. And there's so much change happening at the moment. I mean, that's actually a big change for you. If you were doing all kinds of other sport, what other kind of sports were you into?
I played hockey.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you were heavy into that and now suddenly you start doing something completely different, you need to have the right mindset and you need to prepare yourself to make that change. It's just not you're into sports and now you do another sport and another sport. There's always a change that comes with that. And I feel it's the same in business, or in life in general, that you go through different seasons, or you do this and then you need to do something else. And sometimes you need to reinvent yourself completely. And I think a lot of people at the moment needs to reinvent themselves completely and to be able to go through those things. you got to start with your mindset, and then take it upon yourself to make sure that that you're very well prepared. So when you go, so you climbed Kilimanjaro, okay, and then 6 months later you went back. So has it always been to the same sort of area, or what other different mountains have you climbed since that
So
first
I've been
one?
in Nepal a few times. I've been in Nepal 4 times. I've done Everest Base Camp twice. And I've done the Annapurna circuit, which I didn't complete because there was an avalanche. So I want to go back and do that. I've been to Argentina twice to attempt to summit Mount Aconcagua, but the first time I got sick. I got some altitude sickness, some pulmonary edema, and had to come off the mountain. And I was there in December this last year. And we had to get off the mountain because of weather, wind up to 60 kilometers an hour, which is incredibly dangerous. So we had to get off the mountain. I've been to Russia. I've summited Mount Elbrus. I've been to Peru, done Machu Picchu, done lots in the Drakensberg. Was in France last year, did Mont Blanc. Yeah, that's about it.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, you were now mentioning a few things that sort of, it's the weather, it is the, sometimes I think you spoke about altitude to say that, different people will behave differently in terms of the altitude and the effect that has on them. Is that, could you go to the same mountain range and then the one climb is fine and the next time you go, those kind of things affect you apart from the weather, because obviously we can't control that? But are you fine with one climb in terms of altitude, and then you go back, you do the same climb, and then you behave differently or you react differently to those conditions?
Yeah, there is an affinity. Some people just don't cope with altitude at all. And so no matter how many times they go back, they get sick. Ronnie Moore's wife, that I've done a lot of climbing with, she gets cerebral edema. So she gets that swelling of the lining of the brain. And she gets that from about 3,500 to 3,800 meters. Every single time she gets it. And so she persists and she takes longer to climb, because one of the things that you can do to help you not get altitude sickness is the pace at which you walk. So sometimes she takes a little longer, but yeah, like clockwork, typically 3.5 to 3.8, she gets a really sore head. And so the mountains that she's done that's higher, she's taken a lot longer than the rest of the group to get to where she's going. Someone like myself who doesn't struggle with altitude up to about 6,500 meters, if you follow the rules, you should not get sick, or altitude should not affect you. Altitude affects everyone at a very low level, so everyone feels a very deep sense of lethargy. You do always get a mild headache. You do lose your appetite. Sleep is not, you don't sleep so well. So those mild symptoms of altitude, everyone gets. But obviously the more serious stuff happens further up. And so, yeah, I've never struggled with altitude except for the one mountain, which was Aconcagua at 6,500 meters. And I was hoping to summit Ac this year, at the end of last year, which is 7,000 meters, and was a little weary and curious to see how my body was going to be at 6.5. But unfortunately only got to 6,000 meters, and then we had to get off in terms of weather. So yeah, if you follow the rules in terms of altitude, which is walking slowly, drinking an enormous amount of liquids, so water, soups and all of that kind of jazz, no alcohol, all those kind of things that compromise your body, then you should be fine in terms of not getting the major altitude sickness symptoms.
Yeah. So which mountain is top of your list to still climb? Which one tops the bucket list?
I have unfinished business.
You have unfinished business. So is that sort of the Mount Everest story?
That is the Mount Everest story.
Awesome. So I mean, it's quite amazing because you are part of you were part of it's the first time that it's an all-women team from Africa. So I don't know, Is it South Africa or Africa? Is everybody from South Africa?
We're all from South Africa, but there's never been a women's team from Africa.
Okay. So, I mean, you were part of this team, and you got the opportunity to go and climb Mount Everest as part of this team. And I want to talk to you a little bit about So, what is the what kind of preparation? How long before the time, did you start preparing? What was the journey up until, we sort of are going to Mount Everest to go and do the actual climb? So who are all the ladies that are part of the team?
So on my right, the lady with the long blonde hair is a lady called Alda Waddle, and she's the lady that decided that she wanted to put a women's team together to go climb Everest. So she started all of it. Then there's me. Then the lady next to her is Deshawn Daisel, who has got so much experience in terms of South African mountaineering. She was in the 1996 disaster on Mount Everest. So we can talk about that if you want, but she's got extensive experience. She's been on Everest twice and hasn't got to the top yet. So she's also got lots of unfinished business. And then Tumi on the end was the last person to come into our team. Tumi's also got major experience. She's climbed a lot of mountains through Africa. And the four of us came together at the beginning of last year, so at the beginning of 2019. We actually, Deshawn, Alda, and I got together at the beginning, towards the end of 2018, and then Tumi came on board in about February last year. So the team is complete. We always wanted four. And in terms of my journey, I started training in January last year. So it was a 16-month training focus program because we were due to leave for Everest at the end of March this year.
Okay, so what does that preparation entail? I mean, where do you start? Does it start with planning? Is there people outside the team, or is it just the four of you getting together around a glass of wine and deciding, like, okay, girls, we're doing this. Like, what's the next step? But where do you start? What is the starting point for this journey?
So we had lots of wine, just to put that on the table.
It is important.
Yes, it is important. Alda contacted Deshawn when she wanted to get this together. Deshawn said yes, but she wouldn't do it without Ronnie Moulin, Adventures Global, doing the logistics. So the two of them contacted Ronnie, and Ronnie said, sure, absolutely. And then they said to Ronnie, does he know anyone that would be a good fit and that can obviously fill the space well on many levels? Because they wanted a team of four, and Ronnie contacted me. I had never wanted to climb Mount Everest, to be honest with you. It wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something I wanted to do. And when Ronnie contacted me, he actually lives in Cape Town, and he flew up especially because it's that big and that significant. And we went out for a coffee. And after 2 hours of talking, I said to him, well, what did you want to talk to me about? Because we jabbered about a million other things and all the other mountain stories and stuff that we'd done. And he said to me that this opportunity is here, and would I like to be part of this team? And I was a bit shocked and a bit taken aback. I tend to take decisions very quickly, and I just said to him, this is too big, let me think about it for a while. So I took 2 weeks, and I got back to him and I said, I'm in. I think the opportunity was just way too big for me to say no to. And then we were looking for a fourth, and we were at a women's mountaineering event in Pretoria. And that's where Tumi was, and then Tumi became part of the fourth. So even though we were a unit, we did a lot of practice climbing together. So obviously there's a lot of technical skills that you have to learn when you climb a mountain like Everest. So we engaged with a gentleman called Tony Lawrence from Cape Town. And we went on 3 climbing courses with him to learn Jumaring, abseiling, just to get used to the vertical world and all the equipment around that. Mont Blanc was a practice climb in France, which some of us went to. We didn't all go to all of them because of timing and availability and money, because it's expensive, all of this. So we were in France, some practice climbing there. That trip was amazing. For 2 days, we went and did some crevasse training where we were on 2 different glaciers, and they lowered us into the crevasses, and then we had to climb out with with ice picks and Jumars and all of that kind of jazz, just so that we could get used to what that looks like, because you cross lots of crevasses on Everest. Then Aconcagua was also a practice climb in Argentina. Ac is the highest mountain outside of the Himalayas. It's 7,000 meters. And so to get that altitude under your belt before Everest would have been really cool. So that was also a practice climb. So we did a lot of that stuff together and a lot of the planning together. And obviously the sponsorship drive we did very much together. But the training was very individual because we all different, our bodies are different, our fitness levels, our strengths are different. So that was completely separate. And that journey for me started in January last year. I had, or still have, because this chapter is not closed, two absolutely amazing trainers, Zach van Heerden, Exercise Solutions. He's a sports scientist and he's been my trainer since 2010. And Nikki Moses, who is my Pilates and strength trainer. And yeah, I had very few days off last year. Every day was something with one of them in terms of endurance, power, or strength training. Yeah, it was a long year of keeping focus at that level. And then obviously the work that I did on an individual level around my mental and emotional and spiritual readiness or training. I meditate every morning and do affirmations every morning and visualization. So that was my morning routine. Got up, did meditation, did visualization, did affirmations, and then went off to train.
Okay, and diet, how important is eating the right stuff every single day? You know, it must be hard when you have friends who doesn't do this stuff and they just want to have wine and cheese every Friday and Saturday.
I didn't change my eating. Health is one of my highest values, so I eat really well anyway. Yeah, in terms of mountaineering, I've never come across anyone that has very strict eating regimes. In fact, before you go on a big mountain, because you lose so much weight on the mountain, because your body burns up so many calories trying to keep warm, and you're walking for so many hours every day. Yeah, I mean, every time I come back from a trip, it's a really good weight loss program if you're prepared to deal with all the other stuff. And every time I come back from a trip, I'm down 5 or 6 kilos. So yeah, I didn't change much in terms of my eating. I have cut out meat and chicken in the last 6 months though, but that wasn't specifically for the climbing. It was a health decision I took.
Okay. So
I'd love to wine.
Yeah, it's so important again. So, I mean, you were talking about like you've got 2 different coaches, working on 2 different things in terms of your fitness and your strength and all of that. Yeah. I mean, you yourself is a coach for people like, I guess life business coach, that kind of thing. And I mean, how important is that role? I mean, because I'm pretty sure after all your years in sports, competing at high levels, doing all this stuff, you know what exercises to do. You know how to prepare, you know how to do. And I know that in the beginning, mountaineering was new, but you do it for so long. And then obviously now Mount Everest is a new level. I mean, is Mount Everest the ultimate for everybody, or is there still another mountain that's maybe the ultimate?
The ultimate is different to the highest. So Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world, and you can't dispute that. For a lot of people, it's not the ultimate mountain. It's not that technical. So for the climbers that love the technical stuff, Mount everest is definitely not their ultimate because it's not very technical as technical mountains go. And yeah, people have got affinities to different things. So yes, it's the highest mountain in the world and most commercially visible, I suppose. But in terms of ultimate, that's very subjective.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking that is like, I mean, but this is something you've never climbed it before, but you've prepared for many mountain climbs before. So you sort of know the regime, you sort of know what to do. And I mean, one thing that you didn't mention is that you went to that you need to get training in terms of all these what did you call them, like crevices kind of thing, and you have to so yeah, I don't know all the lingo, but say again.
We don't have that kind of stuff in South Africa. So
no, we don't. But then you got coaches to sort of help you to get to that next level. And I mean, they've been with you on a journey, I guess, with many of your other things. So, I mean, why is it important to have that coach, and have somebody there? If you've got all the know-how, you've got all the knowledge, let's just assume that you've got the skills. Why are you still using somebody to help you in that respect?
Because I'm by no means the expert in the fields that they're the experts in. I mean, Zach is the most brilliant man I've ever met in terms of exercise physiology and how the body works. And so for me to have the arrogance to think that I know more than him in that space is just silly and arrogant, I suppose. So in terms of someone else that is more well equipped and more experienced in terms of my fitness regime, I have to go to someone else, because I wouldn't be able to get to the level of fitness and strength that I got to on my own, because I don't know. And so there's a humility in going, whilst, just before I left, or went out for lunch with Nikki and Zach, and I just, it was very emotional, just thanking them for the hours and the dedication and the patience and everything that they put in, because I wasn't always feeling like it, and I wasn't always wanting to do it, and pressed back a lot of the time. But, Zach and Nikki said to me, you were the one that did the doing, because they can just give me what I need to do. But I was the one that had to get up every morning and go and do it. So it is a balance between the two. But the reason why I continue with them is because Tiger Woods has a coach. Roger Federer has a coach. The best in the world of coaches. I think it's extremely arrogant to think that you can go through this life thinking you're the expert in everything, because you're not.
And also, the interesting part about that is that, Roger Federer's coach will never beat him at a tennis game, probably ever. But they've got other strengths, and they can see things that you just simply can't see. I always think about like a golf swing, for example. I know when somebody video recorded me the first time, what you feel while you do that swing, and what you can see when you're actually looking at it, it's like, so you need somebody from the outside as well to sort of gauge you. And I guess accountability, because you said you didn't always feel like it. So keeping you accountable, and you have to show up because Nikki's going to be there. That also should be quite a thing.
Without a doubt. People are more accountable to others than they are to themselves, which is fascinating in terms of human dynamic. Of all the things that I'm very bad at, the one thing that I'm exceptional at is I have very good discipline. And the most important days were the days that I didn't feel like getting up. Because when you're on the mountain, it's not comfortable. And so if you get into a habit of getting up anyway when you don't feel like it, and it's cold, and maybe your body's a little sore and your mind's not feeling like it, or you're a little bit homesick, those are the days that are the toughest and that you learn the most. And so those were the days here back at home where I really didn't feel like it, and my body was maybe sore, I was tired, or it was cold, or whatever it was. Those are the most important days to get up and go. And just in terms of Nikki and Zach, I couldn't do what I've done, and I couldn't be where I am without them.
Yeah. And okay, so 16 months of preparation. You've actually been preparing since 2010 for this, if you really think about it. 6 months after that, you started really preparing. Even if this wasn't the goal yet back then, you really started preparing to get you to this point, to have the confidence and let's say the skill and things to say, well, I feel up to tackling something like Mount Everest. And, so 16 months of hard work, sacrifice, determination, commitment, getting up when you don't feel like it, all of that stuff. And then you get to like 2 weeks before you had to leave. Okay. And then this little bug comes around, little COVID, and you get a call. What was that call?
Yeah, it was fascinating. So I was due to fly out on the 27th of March, which was a Friday. 2 weeks before that, exactly 2 weeks before that, on the Thursday, the north side of Everest was closed down. So the Tibetan or Chinese side was closed down, and obviously all the climbers that were due to go from that side, because you can climb Everest from two sides, the north or the south side. So the north side was shut down, and all the ramifications of that, and then obviously inundated with friends and family reaching out to say, well, what's happening with the south side? Because we were climbing from the south side. And I said, no reports yet, and it was all lights are green and we're going and tra-la-la-la. And then, the Friday morning I woke up, I actually had a session with Nikki, and I was on my way there driving to my session with her, and I got a call from Ronnie. Ronnie was in Nepal already because he was preparing for some people that were going to trek into Everest Base Camp. So they would have trekked in the 2 weeks before, and then we would have arrived, those of us climbing after that. And he was in tears. And he just said, I'm so sorry, but the Nepalese government have also closed off the mountains. no tourists coming in, and so all the climbers and trekkers, your trips are cancelled.
What's the first thing that goes through your mind when you put down the phone?
I burst into tears.
Like I would burst into tears during the call, to be honest.
I was a bit shocked and a bit in disbelief. Not that it had happened, because I suppose there was an underlying expectation that it might happen, even though I was refusing to accept it and, keeping looking forward. But yeah, I was shocked and disappointed. And the tears were that. They were the outflow of that.
So how long did that last? How long, did that sort of cause you to spiral into a hole and just hide away for a week or 6, or decide that now it's done, that's what it is, everything for nothing? What was your mindset at that point?
No, so I continued to go to Nix, and she burst into tears as well. And then I actually said to her, I'm not up for this session. I just want to go home and process what's going on. And it was in the drive back home, which is about 15 minutes from her studio to my place. What came up for me, Francois, is that, again, like on the mountains, where there is so much out of your control that you just have to accept, because if you try and change something that you can't change, therein lies the angst and the frustration and the anger and the disappointment and the sadness. So for me, in that moment, it was a matter of, this thing is so much bigger than me. It's affecting millions of people globally. It's not just me. So it wasn't a, oh, poor me scenario. And there was nothing for me to do except accept. And I decided there and then that I will go again next year in 2021, all things being equal, hopefully, if they open up again. Yeah. And that shifted my attitude and my energy to refocus on a new goal and to accept what had happened.
Yeah, amazing. So what are all the things that you did have to deal with? Because obviously now there were logistics, there were obviously money involved, there's sponsors, there's all this stuff. Like, what were all the things that now suddenly, did you realize in that moment that, oh crap, I need to deal with all of this? Or did that hit you like the day after that, oh, well, we need to speak to these people?
No, I'm quite methodical in my thinking and the way that I operate. I don't get involved in a lot of the emotion around stuff. A lot of my friends say I think like a man. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but it's quite...
Depends.
It's quite logical. So yeah, I got into immediate action. For me, action also cures a lot of things. I know a lot of people when they are disappointed or they're frustrated or they get lost in the emotion of the situation, they get paralyzed from action. And one of the big things that I work with my coaching clients on is that action cures a lot if you get into massive action. So I took the decisions, got into massive action around what needed to be done, contacted all the sponsors that had given me money just to say that it had been cancelled, but not that it had been cancelled, that it had been postponed by a year. So also changed the framing in terms of my language, because I'm very big on what comes out of your mouth, and your language is very powerful and indicative of what's going on in terms of your thinking. So just changed the language around that. All of them said, absolutely no problem. They committed and they will be with me next year, so I could keep all the money that was donated or that was sponsored. Got into action around my training. I contacted Zach and Nikki immediately and said, are you guys up for another year? Because we've got to keep going. They said, absolutely no problem. Zach said, take a week off. I said, that's going to be very hard. He said, I'm telling you to take a week off. So I took a week off and then got back into the training. And then logistically, that was the biggest thing. Obviously, it's a huge expense to go to Everest. It cost $50,000. There was quite a big chunk of money that I'd lost on expenses that you can't get back, because base camp had already been set up for us and things had been bought, and the manpower and the work around getting everything to and from base camp. So there was quite a big chunk of money that I had lost. So that was closed. I can't get it back. End of that conversation. Got the rest of the money back, so that the money is sitting in my account, getting interest in my account and not someone else's. And yeah, just refocus for the next year.
Yeah. It's, Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about taking massive action. I think there's two things there, because I tend to deal with a lot of anxiety. It's something that I've worked on for a long time, and I'm much better at controlling that. And also the one thing that I found that eases that, or that, as you said, cures it or takes it away, or at least reduces it significantly, is taking action. But also, I mean, I can go out and just do gardening like a beast. That's action, massive action. I never do that. So
in
it's
terms
got
of
to
what
be the right, there's got to be purpose, and you've got to be aligned with you need to know what needs to be done. And I think you said that as well. So I just wanted to highlight that, so that, it's important. You can take massive action, but if it's not aligned to what you should be doing, or where you are headed, or the things that needs that action and your attention, then that massive action is not really going to help you. It's just going to maybe take you away from the situation. But once you're done, the situation is still there. So if you want to deal with something, you got to take the right action, and you just got to go for it.
The massive action must be strategic and planned. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
the action for me was in terms of closing this chapter off and re-engaging for the next one.
Yes, it's amazing. It's like, that's done. This is a new goal. It's like I'm preparing for the first time. I'm just more experienced. You actually you're now building from a higher level. And I think this happens in business often, where we do something and you work on a business for 3, 4, 5 years, and then it doesn't work out. Or something like COVID closed many businesses, and maybe around us, like in my instance, I'm still going, there's things, so it doesn't touch you that much. But if you really start talking to people, you find out that, well, this one's been retrenched, that business closed down, this isn't happening. I mean, I saw a very popular place there where a lot of cyclists go on the weekend. They're not opening up again. It's like, it's sad. And it's, do you stop there, or do you say, okay, so what am I going to do now? Because there's some stats, and I don't know where it comes from. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I know I remember this. That's sort of the number of people that start businesses, and then how many of those businesses fail in the first year or two is more or less the same around the world percentage-wise. But the big difference that they said between South African people that tried, to start a business and failed, and the Americans, for example, is that the Americans will try 4 times, an additional 4 times to start that business. Whereas us, we say, like, I'm done. And it's actually, no, you've learned so much in this journey. You're actually positioned better to go on, and let's just put a new goal, and let's start, and let's say this was all learning. The fact that it didn't work out, don't get married to that outcome. Rather be in the process and the journey. I mean, how do you feel about that?
And the biggest thing for me is, what did I learn in terms of this, and excited about the space that I will go to Everest in next year, because I got to a certain level in terms of mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual training. And now that is my base from which I can leverage from. And so we'll go back next year in a better space. And Francois, I think one of the other things, and I use this a lot in the accountability coaching with the clients as well, it's a life principle and a business principle, is I do a lot of work and follow Eckhart Tolle in terms of the power of now, and I've really engaged in that learning in my life. And I think when you are present to exactly where you are now and don't get lost in the stories in your head, which is the emotional guff that your ego mind is talking to you about, that's where all the nonsense and where people get upset and they disappear and they get paralyzed, is in the story of your mind and what your mind is telling you. And if you focus on being in the now and what is actually happening right now, then that allows you to get into the space where you can then take the steps to move forward. And I use that principle a lot, and that helped me a lot in this instance.
I can imagine. It's not the first time that this was mentioned on the show. There's some other people in the comments previously that also talked about the power of now. And we also had Tanya Kunze on a while back. She was actually talking about, living in the moment, and instead of obviously in the past or the future and that kind of stuff. So definitely subscribe to that as well. And living in the now means that you're present, you really like what is happening now, but it's also then doing the things, I think consciously in the now as well. So it's also that taking action that's important.
The greatest lesson I've learned from the mountains, and the reason why I go back is because you learn so much. The mountains teach you to be in the now. And Eckhart Tolle actually references mountains a lot, or mountaineering, when he does talking about it, because if your mind is elsewhere, you can kill yourself.
Jeez. That's powerful. That's
And
something
so
you need to make something of. Yeah.
this step and this step and this step in that moment, this ice pick, this safety rope. Because if I'm supposed to be tying a safety rope and I'm thinking about, I don't know, what someone said to me or what I'm going to have for lunch or whatever it is, my life is on the line there. And I think the analogy in terms of your business is the same, is that if you are distracted from certain things, your business life could be on the line as well.
Yeah. I just want to show a couple of pictures. Yeah. This is you climbing. I guess, is this you?
That's me.
Where was this at?
So this was in France when we were doing Mont Blanc. This was me
Okay.
coming out of the crevasse. You can see,
Nice.
there was a hole that I'm coming out of. That's a Jumar. That's the device that you use to pull yourself out. The previous one was the ice axes.
I've only seen these things in movies. So, and that's that afterwards or before?
This was getting to the crevasses. I'm at a decent altitude, and lots of time to contemplate and just be in the mountains. So someone caught me, just sitting.
Okay. And this one?
That's on the top of Mount Everest in Russia. It was an absolute blizzard and whiteout. And a lot of my friends says if we didn't recognize your nose, we wouldn't know that was you.
Okay. Say the most important thing is that you recognize me. It's really me. That's the most important thing. Lisa, what is the biggest life lesson or business lesson that you've learned from your excursions and everything that you've done in terms of mountaineering? What's been the biggest lesson for you?
I did reference it before. It's about being in the now. And also, one of the things that I absolutely love about the mountains is you're faced with your absolute naked self. Definitely not naked without clothes on, because you get hypothermia and frostbite. But what I mean by that is and the reason why I love being in the mountains is because all the comforts that we live and often hide behind when we live in this world, in our home world here, you don't have that in the mountains. And so when you're stripped away of all those things that we more than often hide behind and use as excuses for our lives and not progressing and just not fulfilling the ultimate you don't have that on the mountain. You're faced with yourself on those three levels, with no clothes on. And so the lessons that come out of that, I've never experienced any other context outside of being on a mountain where you can learn about yourself and about how you deal with yourself at that level and those challenges at that level. And whenever I come back from the mountains, the stuff that we think is tough and hard here is laughable. And so the resilience that you get from being in the mountains and being so far out of your comfort zone, you don't learn in your comfort zone. No one learns in their comfort zones. And so when you're in the mountain context and you're so far out of your comfort zone, you learn who you really are. And every time I come back, I'm different. Not always, sometimes I don't want to label good and bad, but I'm different. And I've learned so much about myself and about life and about what it takes. The quiet on the mountains is also a big thing for me. We live in such a noise here, and the meditation in the morning allows me to still my mind. And when I don't meditate in the morning, the chaos of this life and the life that we live here and the noise that we live in is distracting and confusing and also something to hide behind and use as an excuse. And so the quietness of the mountains is something that I cherish. When I come back from all the mountains, it takes me longer and longer to reintegrate because it's such a different world. Pardon me. And so, the quiet, I'd say, being in the now and learning about who you really are when you're stripped of all the comforts that we hide behind here.
Yeah. There's one thing that I didn't ask you about that I'm just thinking about now is fear. So before you go on this, are you so confident that you don't feel fear, or do you feel fear, before you embark on any? It doesn't matter which mountain it was. Obviously the first one, was a completely different feeling maybe from the second one. And I would also imagine that every mountain does bring its own feelings and things, but fear, is that something that you have to deal with?
Francois, I think fear is a certain level of fear is healthy. And for me in the mountains, I would replace the word fear with respect I'm not afraid every time I go, but I have a very healthy respect for Mother Nature and for the mountains that I'm about to go on. And I understand completely that I don't decide if I'm going to summit this mountain or not. The mountain decides. And so in terms of the Everest conversation, obviously lots of emotional and in-depth conversations with family and friends who they were very afraid for me in my life. And I must be honest, that fear didn't come into my consciousness at all. Massive respect, but I'm healthy fear in terms of respect, but not fearful that it's paralyzing or not allowing me to do what's required. And also all the training, Francois, when I had to walk into that crevasse front ways down a vertical thing for the first time, when they said to us, right, you need to walk down and then you're going to come out, my mind went, what? I have to walk down this. And what I did again then was got into massive action, because when they said who wants to go first, I said I'm going first, because if I had to watch everyone else going down, there's no ways I would have done it. So I didn't think, I didn't get into the story, because it's the story and the emotion that then starts to go, and if you fall and if you slip and da. So I didn't think, I got into action, and that quelled the fear quite a lot. And then obviously all the practice, you get more confidence, and then the fear,
Yeah, you make me think about something that Ryan Stramroot said. So he swam 108 times between Robben Island and Blouberg, but then also he swam like all these extreme adventure things all over. And one of the things he swam was the English Channel. And he was also talking about, not getting into the story of your head. He framed it differently, but I mean, it comes down to the same thing. So again, because your mind is trying to protect you. That's all it's trying to do. It's got good intentions, but it's like it then holds us back. So I think that's such an important thing. So I want to run just through some of the comments and see if there's questions. So Peter says that this is what is meant by having a can-do attitude. Bruce Cameron says that is the best comment. Blaming everyone else for your own problems is amazing. So yeah, I definitely agree. So this is a comment about whether I should continue or not. Peter says another profound principle: know what you don't know. And also, I think we should always go through life like I don't know everything. The moment we think like we know everything, that's when you start losing anywhere in life. It doesn't matter whether it's your personal life, your business life, whether it's in sport. Doesn't matter. You never know everything. There's always somebody that knows more, and we're going to discover more things as we go along. So definitely. Neil says having an accountability coach in different areas, fitness, dietary, mental, financial, makes all the difference. Yes, Peter then says being the best that you can be involves a lot of mental resilience and the ability to bounce back from adversity. It's obviously a lot of comments. So let's see what goes through your mind when you are at high altitude in bad weather, aching and very tired. What keeps you going? Good question, Neil.
Yeah, it's very much, again, Neil, thanks for the question about being in the moment, because if I'm thinking about my body and if I'm thinking about the bad weather and what it all entails, then you don't get through it. So literally when things are not cool in terms of how you're feeling or the weather, I literally focus on the next step, and then the next step, and then the next step. I remember climbing, the first time I climbed in Argentina, I remember looking to the camp that we had to get to and thinking it can't be more than 10,000 steps. I'm just going to count one step at a time. When I got to 14,000, we got to there, but I counted one step and one step and one step. Because if you engage in the stuff that's going on around you, you lose it. You get back into the monkey mind, you get back into the emotion of it, and that doesn't serve you in that space.
So it's just a question from my side, Lisa. So has that been a process for you to get to that level? Because that means that you've got control over your mind. I mean, like, usually our mind controls us. I mean, it takes a lot of work to get to that point where you can control your mind to that. Or have you been blessed with always being able to do that?
No, Francois, it's a work in progress, and you don't always get it right. I've been a lot of times in the mountains where I've sat down and had a cry, or I've walked into camp crying, because it's just been too much and gotten ahead of you. But that's the journey, hey, is that you're able to do it more and more and get better and better at it. And by no means do I get it right all the time. Far, 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 far from that. But the intention is always in that direction, and I'm always moving to endeavor to get better.
Yeah, Amazing. Govendra says, living in the now, critical and followed by mass action. Yes. Good stuff, Lisa. From my side, sure. Thank you very much. I think this was an amazing discussion, conversation. I would love to do more of this with you. I think there's so many amazing lessons. And also it's amazing how a lot of the things that we spoke about on the show is again coming to the fore, and there's principles that we can base our lives on. And once we understand that it's about the principles, it's not about finding out the new thing or the new bells and whistles. And it's not about doing that stuff. It's about doing the basics very well, understanding the principles and, getting to master them. So that's what it's about for me. So just for me and the community, thank you so much. And any last words from you?
Yeah, just to echo what you've said, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your platform, and thank you everyone for listening and for logging in. And yeah, for me, it's just about finding your true essence and your genius and honoring that. And therein lies the journey of our life.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Lisa, thank you so much. Good luck with this weekend summit. I wish you all the best, and we'll chat soon.